If you're only gonna steal one guitar trick this week, it should be this one. It only takes a few minutes to get down, but it is going to really enhance your lead lines and guitar solos because it's interesting, unique, expressive, and just sounds freaking cool. And I will say that I think some newer players will be able to get this under their fingers. It's gonna take time to refine, of course, but I do think, some newer guitar players can get it down, and certainly intermediate guitar players are gonna have fun with this. So really simple stuff. We're gonna base everything around the top 4 strings of the most simple pentatonic shape. So these notes right here. All right, now the D string is just gonna be individual notes. The flavor really comes from these top 3 strings, the G string to the high E. So if we take a simple, single note phrase like this, sounds perfectly lovely. Something you can hear, all over the place. You can use that in a jam and somebody might say, great, it's a perfectly fine little phrase. But all of a sudden, if you add that, those top 3 strings underneath each one of those notes, somebody might say, ooh, that's a little more unique. Their ears might perk up and go, what was that? That was really cool and flavorful and interesting. All right, so I would just start with kind of down picking. It's basically a small bar, and you can run through it with just your index finger if you like. You can try that. I would, I think in a true playing, jamming context, index finger to ring. You can double up on the index to get a few more reps in there, but I would just go through it. A few minutes, you don't even have to waste any time. I'll show you a practice lick you can mess around with, and then how you can kind of just bring it into your solos, into like a jamming scenario. All right, but I will say that this is really perfect for like a bluesy scenario. You can bring it into other contexts and play around with it, but I think the way it's gonna be, expressed in the most, in the way that works best is going to be a blues scenario. So just keep that in mind. But again, I'm not saying don't play around with it in other contexts. It definitely can work in other scenarios, but I think a blues scenario is where it's gonna sound best. All right, so again. And you can try that right away where you're sliding. And in the description, I'll give you a PDF of, where you can just work up, add the slides, and of course I'll give you the practice lick as well. But that's really the deal. Take a few minutes, let's say 2 to 3 minutes to just kind of move up and down in a kind of relaxed manner. And then you can, play around with the practice lick, or you can just jump into, a blues backing track. We're in B minor, or we're using a B minor pentatonic, but a dominant blues. So if you just search B blues, you'll probably get a dominant blues. And anyway, so you can try that. I'll link one right here. How about that? And you can use that and try to play around with this flavor when we're done kind of showing you the practice lick and how you can jam around with it. All right, but here's the practice lick. Now it's all downstrokes. You can play around with some upstrokes, but I think as you're getting going, just work the downstroke. All right, we can go through that a bit slower. Excuse the guitar faces, even slower. One more time. You can pause the video and play around with that for a second. I'll show you how to kind of jam with it right now. And like I said, description, download that PDF so you can have access to this. You don't need to come back to this video every single time you want to play around with this technique. And I should say that, I want to make all of these things free and accessible. That's definitely a goal of mine, is to, get as many people playing guitar, make it free. everyone can kind of jump in and get as much information as they possibly can. You know, people who are passionate about playing. So with that being said, I have a link in the description as well for, you know, it's Buy Me a Coffee is the link. So you can support this channel and keeping everything free and accessible if you feel so inclined. Certainly no pressure, but that's one way to support this and make sure that everything stays free if you can and you find this helpful stuff, or you find this to be helpful stuff. And of course, you can like and subscribe. That's a free and easy way to support as well to get this out to more people. Okay, but there's the lick. You know, I won't even put on a backing track. Just think about a blues scenario. So just noodling around, not in a perfect, you know, 12-bar blues or anything like that, but you can recognize that just using that flavor and, you know, being a little aggressive with, you know, your strokes on those top 3 strings gives it this kind of grit, little stank, whatever descriptor you want to use to, you know, apply some like grittiness, I think is exactly what this technique does and adds to your solos. So again, even if you only know that pentatonic shape and, you know, you're hitting some basic phrases, you know. Well, all of a sudden you throw that in, it breaks it up, right? Those single note lines, and all of a sudden creates some interesting flavor and some uniqueness that, again, if you're in a jam scenario, hey, it might impress your friends, but if you're at a gig or something, you're a little bit newer, you know, you're taking your first solos, you can rely on that to kind of break things up and have people go, oh, that's an interesting phrase, or an interesting flavor, I should say. All right, so that's really the deal. Play around with it. Experimentation is a good thing. You know, get the technique under your fingers, right? Spend a few minutes doing that, and then, you know, rein it in. I have a video I just put out about noodling with a purpose. So you can use this technique to noodle with a purpose. I'll link it right there and in the description. And you might find that it gives you a good little framework to use when you're experimenting. Okay, so that's the deal. 3 notes up and down inside of that, you know, pentatonic framework. Have fun with it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. There's going to be lots of good stuff coming out. Already some good stuff out here. I think lots of good stuff out there. And anyways, I will see you all on the next one. Peace.